Hello and welcome to Paranormal or What podcast with me, your host, Michaela Ford. And today I have a new and interesting person to interview who goes by the name of Mark Hughes. Welcome, Mark.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you on.
Mm.
I'm very excited to find out all about you because we've not met before this evening.
No, no,
So
no.
it's all new to me and all to be experienced.
That's
Um,
fine. That's fine.
So I do like to ask everybody, first of all, how did you first get into the paranormal? What happened?
Um, well, dearie me, we're going back now. I've been into the paranormal for pretty much most of my life, even before it was cool, you know.
Yeah.
And my first experience would be when I was quite small, probably about 7 or 8, something like that. And it was I lived in a house that was haunted, but it wasn't an old mansion or anything like that. It was a simple terrace house up in in Bolton, where I used to live.
Oh yeah.
And my mum and dad, my mum and dad bought the house, and I say it was quite an old house, and but there was something not quite right about it, you know. And I go into my bedroom, and we used to feel icy cold, and just a kid thinking, oh no, no, you know, just being scared. But what I used to see was in I, bedrooms back in the 70s were basically a bed and a wardrobe, and that was, and if you were lucky, you had a small chest of drawers as well.
Yeah.
But I just had a wardrobe, and the wardrobe itself was like a shiny, glossy brown. You know, so it was so glossy and shiny. In fact, I used to sort of brush my hair in the mornings before going to school and stuff like that. But what used to happen sometimes is I'd be looking at my reflection, doing my hair and sorting my tie out, and behind me there'd be a dark figure or a shadow of a
Oh,
figure behind me.
oh
And
God.
I remember the first time I saw it, and I looked around thinking it was one of my sisters or my parents, and there was nothing there. And then, of course, I'd look back onto the mirror, and it had gone from there as well. And I was just thinking, oh no, I must be going mad. And but this started to happen more and more and more as time went on. And it got to a stage where I was very scared to go to bed at night, like most kids. But I'd switch the light off and I'd dive under the bed covers really, really quickly because I knew there was something not quite right. And there was one night where I could feel my blankets being pulled from me. You know, I'm holding
Oh,
the top and they're actually being pulled down. And then I felt like there was something like a weight had been suddenly plonked down on the corner of the bed, furthest corner, the right hand corner from me. And I got really brave one night and I peeked out. And on the end of the bed was this old matron, I would say, like the old Hattie Jakes type matron, just sat there and just looking at me, smiling. And I was absolutely petrified at that age. And I pulled it back over me. And this went on for some time. And my mother was always very spiritual. And I spoke to her about it. And my mum just said, don't worry, don't worry. And then we start to talk to each other about things. And she'd also witnessed things that had happened to her during the day, looking after my baby sister. And that's when I didn't get frightened. Well, what the final straw was, it was one Christmas Eve. We were invited round to our neighbour's house for a few drinks. In fact, they'd invited pretty much the whole street. It was like a row of terrace houses, about 6 terrace houses. And we were all, you know, they were all the grown-ups were drinking their beer and wine, and me and my sisters and couple of other kids were just eating crisps and Coke and stuff. And all of a sudden, from upstairs in our neighbour's house, one of her children, who were a lot younger than us, screamed. Absolutely, you just heard this almighty scream. And then some other kid, or one of her other kids, sorry, turned around and said, oh, I bet she can see that old woman sat on her bed again. And everybody in the room went, it was deadly quiet. And you could see people's eyes looking at each other. As it turned out, all of us in that row had seen exactly the same woman sat on the end of our beds or in our bedrooms at one time or another over the last few months.
oh
And
my
that's when I started
goodness.
to get really interested in it. And well, by the time I was about 9 or 10, well, probably about 12, 13, I started learning things like the Bermuda Triangle and alien abduction. And I got really into it. And then I had to take a little bit of a break because I got married, had kids and everything else. But now everybody's grown up and moved out. It's just me and my wife now. We've got really back into it all again, and it's that's basically it. That was the first happening, and then from then on, I just witnessed loads and loads of things. I find that the more you get into it, the more you witness, the more you're aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, gosh. So she'd gone through all the terraces then.
Yeah.
They were
Well,
kind of
somebody,
connected.
yes, exactly, because somebody did some homework. I can't remember who it was. But so it turned out that the row of houses we were on used to be a nursing home.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it would also explain, because it was a real sort of a jumble of stairs and corridors going to each room in the yeah, it wasn't just a straight 2 up, 3 down, 2 down. It was the bedrooms are like, one was at one level, then the other one was at a higher level, and there were steps going to another. But all the houses were like that. But when I think about it now, I think, yeah, that probably is right. It probably was lots of different rooms, and the builders have had to try and turn it into a row of terraced houses with materials they had at that time.
Yeah.
So yes, it was. And also at the end of that row was a shop, just a typical like old co-op type shop, sold everything. And apparently nobody, or none of the girls, liked going into the storage area around the back, because they'd seen a few things as well. So that was just that row of houses. There was something happened in there. So yeah, that was quite interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a story.
Oh yes.
That's amazing. And
Mm,
actually, there aren't that many people that I speak to who
yeah.
see full-bodied apparitions. There's lots and lots of experiences that people have, but that's more
Yeah.
rare, I think, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it probably about 35, 40 years, and I've only seen probably 3 apparitions I've seen in that time, and one of them is the old lady. The other one was a oh yeah, it was that place called Anison Funeral Parlour up in Hull. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I used to live, well, I used to live in Hull for two
Oh right,
years. Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't
and
heard of the funeral parlour, but I've definitely
mm,
been
yeah, I
around
saw.
Hull.
I saw a figure there, but it was only a very split. Hey, what on earth was that? It was just a figure of a man, and he was there for only a split second, and I thought, whoa. And the other one I saw, again a few years ago now, was at oh crumbs, what's it called? It's over in Warwickshire. Oh, the Mason's house. Can't remember what it's called now. Oh, you'll get your viewers and listeners going to be screaming at the screen telling what it is. Oh, I just can't. It'll come to me.
Yeah, yeah.
We were down in one of the yeah, we were down in one of the cellars there, and in front of several of us, in fact. No, well, it was several of us, but there's only me that saw it, because it was pitch black, and everybody's trying to get all their equipment and ghost hunting stuff out and get everything ready. And I looked up, and in front of me, just some steps in front of me, Guy's Cliff House, that's the place.
Oh,
Just in
yeah.
front of me, there was just a selection of lights all started to come on and off at the same time, and eventually created this figure. This probably only lasted about 2 or 3 seconds, but it was enough that you go, "Oh my God, look at this!" But by the time everybody else had looked, it had gone. So,
Oh, wow.
so that's probably it. I think that's the 3 I've seen. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences, and I've had lots of weird things happen to me. But I don't know how you want me to go about with your.
Yeah, well, let's just hear about as many as you want to start with. Yeah.
Oh, okay, then that sounds good. It's nice and easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was we like easy.
Yeah.
There was one place I used to do. I've taken a bit of a break from it at the moment. A company that I do events for as a medium, and we were doing some an event up at oh dear, the museum up in you know, my brain's gone shut down on me. It was up
Is
in a
it
museum. It'll come to me, don't worry. And we were doing this event, and there was a place in there called the Napoleon Room. And these people doing some table tipping, you know, they put their hands
yeah.
on the table and it rocks and everything. And they were getting some phenomenal results. They really were. But this particular area was actually known to have some sort of not dark demonic stuff, but some spirits that like to be a bit menacing, you know.
Mm.
And it got to about, I don't know, 2:30, 2:45 in the morning when it was about to finish up. And what I normally do, what I used to do, was I went round to all the places, make sure all the tables and chairs were put back, and make sure everything's tidy again after the guests have gone. And I remembered that in this Napoleon room, there was the table still there with the glass and a few bits and pieces. So I better go and get that. So I went in there, and it was right down the far end of the actual room I went to. And I started to sort of just get a few bits and pieces together onto the table. And all of a sudden, it was freezing cold, really icy cold. And I thought, cool, wow, that's it chilly. I know somebody's left the window open or something like that. And I could feel this just down my right-hand side, this really cold feeling. And I actually sort of, you know, breathed out, and I could see the mist coming out of my mouth, you know, and I thought, hello, oh, a minute, it was going, and all of a sudden I heard this. I thought, oh my God, no, I'm not hanging around. So I literally threw everything to the table and dashed straight out of the room. Now, I don't normally get scared, but that was, there was something not right there. As a medium as well, you tend to know, okay, no, I'm going to leave this one. And I was outside the room, and oh, good grief, I was absolutely, that did make me think twice. I think one of the only times I've sort of thought, blooming heck, you know. Unfortunately, I've not been back there since, because I wouldn't mind going back, or just
see if it happens again.
Yeah, but so that's one of the other things that did happen to me, which is, I just can't remember the name of the museum now. It'll come to me. Don't worry, it'll come to me.
It's always really I think one of the scariest things that that I've encountered as well is if someone makes a noise quite close to you, like a sort of a menacing noise, a growl or a hiss, or you know, breathing. It just goes right through you, doesn't it?
Oh yes, yeah, and also I sometimes feel it's not. I think some people get confused, especially like the novices who tend to think, oh well, I'll hear something, I'll know it if I hear it, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it could just sound like somebody's talking on a radio just for a few seconds, you know. That's what I found anyway. Or as you say, the breathing might be a little bit off pattern, you know, that sort of thing. So yes, I agree. It's funny how spirits communicate with us, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know?
So any others? Come on, I'm really excited here. This is really good.
Well, I'm sure
Not to put you under pressure.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I can tell you about I also study like ufology and cryptology and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And I got into like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and all that sort of thing. I was probably about 15, 16 at the time, and I've seen some strange things when I've gone out to like Cannock Chase and like, those sort of
yes, I went there and managed to see nothing. I think I was there on a night off or something.
Yeah, they had enough. No, I did see. I'll talk about Cannock Chase in a bit, but this particular thing happened to me around. I was about 15 or 16. I was getting braver, and I'd read about these cryptids called Taranaks. And a Taranak is, if you like, I think it's Russian, or it might be Japanese. I can't remember now. But it's that part of the world, and it's like a demonic baby, if you like.
Ooh.
And what it does, it lures people into dark places like woods and forests and caves by crying or something like that. And there was one night I thought, I'm going to go into the woods, because right where I lived there was like a big forest. They called it I think they called it Bluebell Woods or something like that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have a look. And that's right. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. People had told me, because I was interested, people had told me about Bluebell Woods and the sort of things that, you know, that have happened there. And I thought, oh, well, I've got to go and have a look, you know. And it's funny because I had a few people who said they wanted to come with me, but when it came to the crunch, I ended up going on my own. How brave are they? So I got my torch and everything else. And but I had to be a bit careful because I had school the next day, because I was a young teenager. My parents wouldn't have been too happy me being out really late. Anyway, I went into the woods, into these Bluebell Woods, and it was really thick forest. It's still there actually. It's over near a village called Mortimer outside Reading.
Oh.
And I'm going through these woods, and I think, oh, and all of a sudden, I heard this baby crying, and I thought, oh, that could be something. So I thought to myself, well, let's see, make sure, because there could be houses that were located near, or somebody might have a bedroom window open, or somebody might be camping out, or something like that. So I followed where the crying was coming from, and as I got deeper and deeper into these woods, all of a sudden the voice came from a different direction. And I thought, what's that about then? Hang on, I'm sure. So I thought, oh, okay, maybe they moved. So I started following this crying again, and it was a constant type crying. And again, as I got to another part of the woods, it literally just, as I heard it, move like from one ear to the other, coming from another set of the woods. And I thought, now this is getting a bit too strange now. But I did, what I did was I decided not to follow that crying, but I thought I'd try and find I don't know, a clearing somewhere where I could get my thoughts and things like that. And as I carried on going forward, deeper into the woods, all of a sudden the crying went from one ear to the other one directly ahead of me. That's when I started thinking, no, this isn't right now. Now, something's not right here. So I decided I was going to be brave, and I left the woods.
Yeah, well, it's a bit Blair Witch, isn't it? It's a bit
Yeah.
like
Oh,
witchcraft
yeah.
kind of
And
connotations.
absolutely. But as I walked away, the crying, it felt to me, whether it was my imagination running riot at the time, I don't know, but it felt like it was getting louder and more desperate. The crying itself. And any other night, even if it was a weekend, I might have thought, "No, what the heck? I'm going to go have a look." But because I knew I'd get a bit of a slap wrist for being home late on a school night, so I decided not to bother. Now, I told a few friends of mine this, and they were all like, "Oh, but one of them, or two of them, I should say, were actually brave enough, and we went back to the woods, and a few days later, or that weekend, but we heard absolutely nothing. So
Maybe it liked the fact you were by yourself.
could be. Well, that's what we said. But yeah, it was a nice evening to go walking in the woods. I suppose it was quite cool, if I remember that night evening. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the other really strange things.
Sounds
Mm.
like you had a lucky escape to me.
Mm. Fair enough. The books I read now on cryptids and taranaks and weird demonic babies, yeah, because apparently whatever it was may have been trying to lure me, because you hear about people who disappear and
Yeah.
never seen again and things like that. So you're thinking, I wonder, could that have been
Yeah.
what it was? I don't know.
I know we've got a haunted woods near where
Mm,
I live.
right.
On the way to Worthing, it's called Clapham Woods, and it's got a really weird history of UFO
Yeah.
sightings, devil worship,
Oh,
witchcraft, all. But lots of people have gone missing there, and it's not a very big
yeah.
woods. And particularly,
Yeah.
people have been found there
Mm.
having gone on a dog walk and died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, more than there should be, and also
Yeah.
a lot more missing dogs than there should be as well.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a very
Mm.
strange experience there, which was
Mm.
we saw lots of lights, but it felt like
Oh,
they were almost like fairy lights all around
yeah.
us, but we felt like
Okay.
we were being watched, and
Mm.
it felt like we could hear whispering.
Really?
It was really
Mm.
frightening actually. It was enough to make us leave. But I
Yeah.
think woods are terrifying at night. I really think they are.
Yeah. Well, you got to sort of think about the elemental spirits and things like that, that could be wandering around and with a little bit of a temper on them or something like that. Ha! You cut the trees down and burn us, so I'm going to get you. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, thank you. So, you said that you're a medium. How did you discover that you had abilities? What happened?
Um, Well, it was a little bit of my mother was very connected like that, and that's where I feel I get it from. I mean, she's not with me now, my mum, but passed away a couple of years ago. But whenever we were talking about spirits, ghosts, things like that, whenever I was a kid, my mum was always there. She always knew. A house that me and my wife used to live in about 15, 20 years ago had the ghost of or a spirit of a child. And we found out afterwards the previous owners actually lost a child in that
Oh,
house. So I found that really compelling at the time. And I used to feel myself that all of a sudden I'd smell like perfume, like kiddies used to, or young girls used to put on when they were going out to impress their young boys, that sort of thing, you know.
Mm.
So I'd always been interested, and I'd always how can I put it? I believe it's something we all have. We all have that empathy. Some people just choose not to use it. Um, one example I always give is if you go into a room where a couple have had an argument, you know something's not right here. You
Yeah.
know, and I tend to think that is your instincts or your intuition, or something's telling you, yeah, okay, you need to be, you need to be careful what you say. I'm trying to think, how did I get into it? I'd always had the interest, and I'd always been able to say to somebody, yeah, I can see this person now. I can see them now. I can see them, what they're showing me. And then as I got more involved with the event company, I started to pick up on more spirits that the medium at those particular event companies was picking up on. I've had I've had three people when I finally decided, yes, I'm going to practice this. We had a lovely medium, a young lady called Angela. She's still working professionally now, and she offered to take me by the hand and show me what to do. And I did a couple of her courses, and she was great. But then all of a sudden, she got really too busy in order to help me. So I had to sort of take from what she'd shown me and the courses that I did with her and try and hone in on those. And then I met another guy, a guy called Gavin, who's, I always think like the Sid James of the spiritual world. You know, he talks like that. Really nice guy, though. Really nice guy. And I asked him, could he help me? And he said yes. And what was great about Gavin was he deals a lot with demonology and things like that. So he taught me how to deal with the darker elements and things like that. And so I learned how to summon, if you like, or call for, or I learned, sorry, that's the wrong phrase. I learned how to deal with darker entities. You know, I knew what to do, and he showed me that, and he taught me that, and again, all of a sudden, he got really busy. You know, so I had two mediums show me two very different things, but I felt I was lucky in that, I could use what they showed me. And now I work with another medium, again, a lovely lady called Veronica. And she then showed me, how could I put it? She was really good. Well, she is really good in that she sets up the scene for me and says, right, off you go, Mark. And I'm going, oh, what? Hey, what? She's, in all honesty, I needed that. And so with her, she showed me how to do, how to be a medium in front of a crowd of people, how to pick up spirits within certain groups of people. And I've done a couple of events with her just in front of a crowd of people and picking out spirits from certain people as well. And the more I did that, the more, it's great when you walk away and they're all going, and you picked up spirits and you from the people in the crowd when you don't know them, and when they sort of shake your hand afterwards, you think, wow, I can do this. So I sort of took it from there. I also mix in a little bit of Wicca as well, the pagan nature, that sort of thing. I tend to mix a lot of that in, and I also try and mix in a little bit of my ufology work, because we're talking about aliens, interdimensional beings and things like that. So I try and use that as well. And there have been cases, but certainly when I've worked with Gavin, where we've called forward aliens, if you like, but from a different dimension. And when he does his photography, he's actually picked up, you can see the outlines of greys in the mirrors that have surrounded us. It's extraordinary what we picked up. So if you like, and I've sort of just taken everything that these three people have told me, and I use I've honed in my craft like that. And now I use oracle cards and I do readings for people. And I also dabbled a little bit with rune stones, not so much. I got really involved in it, and then I got too busy with other stuff, but I can do rune stones as well. And I also use things like dowsing rods and pendulums, that sort of thing as well.
Oh yeah.
Do readings, and so that's what I tend to use, and I tend to do it like that. So it's a mixture of all sorts of different things all crammed together, which I found I worked out how to use it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the house I'm living in at the moment, we know there's a spirit here. In fact, I think there's about two or three that live in this house because this is a really old house I'm in. I think it was built in the sort of the 1930s or something like that. But I know there are spirits in this house because they've called out my name, they've called out my wife's name, and sometimes the dogs will just look at a certain area in the room, you know, and they'll move. Both of them move their heads left and right, like something's teasing them, you know, with a bit of steak
Oh
or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So,
Oh
so
wow.
that's been, yeah, that was. So that's basically how I. I mean, I'm not. How can I put it? Um, I only call myself professional in that I take it seriously. That's
Yeah.
probably the best way to do it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So how do you connect with the spirits? Is it lots of different things? You say you hear things.
yeah.
Do you see things with your eyes or is it in your mind? How does it
It's in
work?
my mind. It's in my mind. What I tend to do is like as talking to you now, and because I've mentioned the spirits in this house, I'm now seeing the gentleman inside my mind, as if to
Yeah.
say, "What are you talking about? Well, you know we're here. You know what I mean? He's sort of talking like that, but he knows we're here. You
Yeah.
know. So it's like the third eye. You know, and I see it in my mind. I also do what they call like a lock off. Because sometimes, if you go into like a hospital or even a graveyard, sometimes, or a place or a funeral home, you do pick up a lot of different senses. So what I've learned to do is I've learned to lock myself off from it. On my right hand, on my ring finger right hand, I don't know, I got a ring on there, and every time I'm wearing that, that's like a lock off from any spirits that try and contact me. If I take it
Oh,
off
right.
my left hand with my marriage ring, then that's like a welcome. I'm happy to talk to people. So when I do meditation, I try and meditate twice a day if I can. Sometimes a couple of days will go by. Sometimes I'm really on top of it. But when I do, I put my my ring, sorry, on my other hand, and
Yeah.
then I open my mind up, and then I get all sorts of spirits coming towards me, talking to me, and things like that. I have three different guides. And one helps me with spirit communication. The other one is more of a elemental type spirit that deals a lot with the forests, and so I tend to use that if I'm doing ghost hunting or going into dark woods or very rural locations. And I've also got another one that's a younger one that tends to help more when I get a bit of a, if I'm having a day where everything's really peeing me off, you know,
Yeah.
mental health, if you like, you know, helps me a little bit get over that. It's like holds my hand to say, no, you're all right, Mark, you're all right. And what I've
Yeah.
also learned, because when I meditate, I ask each spirit to come forward, each guide to come forward and walk away again. So I get used to their presence. So I know if I'm going to go into a dark, dangerous place, and I get sense a certain spirit, a certain guide, I know they're protecting me from whatever might be in there. That makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So
And is your ring made from anything special or is it just more of a symbol, really?
it's more of a symbol, really. I
Yeah.
can't remember. I think I got it from Amazon, to be honest with you. You know, I did look at getting a nice big sort of, I don't know, a spirit type ring, but they were blooming expensive. So I
Yeah.
decided, no, it's more about the intent, more about the thought. You know, this is what this ring does for me, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's my intent, and that's what stays with me. You know, I always feel that when I don't want mediums to shoot me down. I know there's a lot more involved, and it's not just as simple as that. But I always feel that a lot of mediumship, certainly when you're doing readings, it's about the intent. You know, I want to find out what's happened to this person. I want to help this person. This is what I'm going to, you know. So it's a bit of assertiveness, if you like, to actually talk to spirits.
Yeah. And when you go into a meditation, do you do guided meditations or do you do your own sort of meditation?
Um, Usually my own. One of the things I do meditate to, it depends where I am. I mean, I've got a lovely big garden and I live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm in a very small village, excuse me, and I've got a huge back garden. And right down the end of that garden, my wife owns all the good bit, if you like. because it's all got flowers and it's all straight lawns and everything else.
Oh
But I've
yeah.
got the I've got the bit of the garden right down the end where I've let it grow wild, and I've got like a small park bench in the middle of it, and I
Yeah.
got views of the countryside in front of me, and I'm literally surrounding trees. It's like sitting in the middle of the woods, if you like, but it's got a park bench. And I
Yeah.
sometimes I meditate, and that's where I'll go because all I can hear there is wildlife. If it's peeing with rain and I've got to come in here, then I will put on one of the YouTube channels. They've got like meditative thunderstorms or things like that.
Yeah.
So that's what the only problem with YouTube is, of course, you get the adverts. So
Yeah.
you're in the middle of meditating, and you get this gleam toothpaste. You buy now. I don't know what's going on. So I have to find. I found a channel now that actually doesn't have adverts. It just has a nice, clean, thunderstorm, and I find that really relaxing, and that helps me as well. And when I am in a meditative state, again, that's when I talk to my guides and I talk to various spirits that want to come towards me. When we've lived here about 5 years now. When I
Yeah.
first started to meditate down the garden, it was a very straightforward meditation. But now spirits know who I am and and that I can actually hear them, or I'll speak to them. I get a lot more results within the house and the garden because they know. Oh, Mark's here. Right, we'll have a chat. You know, that's.
Yeah.
Mm.
And did you I know you got help from different mediums. Did you ever join a development circle or anything?
I did. Oh,
Because
how can I
I
put?
joined one and it folded after one session. It didn't
Yeah,
turn out very well for me.
yeah. No, I'll be honest. I've got a lot of admiration for people who do run these groups and what have you. But I won't mention names, obviously. The first one I joined, there was so much cat fighting,
Oh,
um, and at first I just thought, no, I'm not going to get roped in on this. And before I know it, I'm getting messages from these other people in this. Oh, Mark, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think you should be? And I think, no, this is not what I joined for. So I left that one. I joined another one, and as same as you, after about 3 sessions, it folded. I thought, oh,
oh,
what? So I joined another one after that. In fact, it was I joined another one after that, and there was just so much infighting and jealousy, and I thought, oh please, So I actually stopped doing that because I just couldn't be doing with the.
it was too negative. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you go there to join to be positive, to learn, and then you get all the backbiting and the bitching, and I just thought, no, this is not what I did it for. So I sort of stopped going to them simply for that reason. I mean, I know there are good ones out there, and I've been invited to a few, but I've always been a bit, I don't know. I'll see what happens. That's what I think,
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's what I was thinking. There's a spiritualist church in my
Okay.
town.
Mm.
And but I've only ever been once. I went years and years ago.
Right.
Um, it was really funny because I'm very skeptical with things like that because
Yeah.
I think I've probably got trust issues. I'm never quite sure, I've been to a lady down the road from me and I was really unimpressed with her.
Right.
But yeah, I have been to kind of an evening with so and so medium.
Mm.
And I've been
Yeah.
to a couple and they've been amazing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, it just depends who it is, I think. And so I
Yeah.
went I went
Yeah.
to this spiritualist church and I thought that the man, so there was a medium on stage, there were about 100 people there. And I walked in, and of course, I've always got really bright hair. So I was really obvious and sort of stuck out. And I think I just had a big beacon on my head going, I'm new. And I
Mm.
felt cynically at the time that he picked on me because I was new. And he thought,
Yeah.
oh, we'll see if we can impress this new person and get them to stay or whatever. That was my thinking at the time. Anyway,
Right.
he
Yeah.
came through and he said, I've got a spirit here. It's not your dad, but he's telling me to tell you that your dad's really ill.
Mm.
Um, and my dad,
Yeah.
um, who's my stepdad but brought
Right.
me up,
Mm.
wasn't ill. This must be about 15 years ago. And so
Right.
I was getting sort of more and more cross and irritated, thinking, "You're trying to upset me here. You telling me that my dad's really ill and he's not. What are you playing at?" sort of thing. And
It's
I
called
did,
cold reading. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that was it.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's only last year, and I had this bizarre kind of light bulb moment when I was thinking about, I went to this place and I wasn't very impressed. But told me that my dad was really ill and that he was basically going to die. And, blah, blah. And then I sort of had this, oh my God, because I'd been in contact with my birth father.
Right.
And that year he died of
Mhm.
cancer and he didn't tell me because he said
Oh,
that he didn't want me to know because he didn't want to upset me.
right.
Which of course I found more upsetting
Yeah.
than being
Yeah.
told. But
Yeah.
and so it was like 15 years later that I went, oh my goodness, he was right. That man
Right.
was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
And
Awesome.
so I'm trying not to be as skeptical now because
Mm.
just because it doesn't trigger something in you doesn't mean that it's not real
Mm.
or true. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I when I do oracle card readings, I use what's known as they call it the Mystic Martian deck. Basically, it's like cartoon aliens, if you like. And
yeah,
I use it one because they're different and I find them really easy to use. But I also wanted one that sort of reflected my personality a bit because I'm a bit of an idiot sometimes, a bit outrageous. And but yeah, sometimes I've done readings for people, and you'll get some people who are simply there because they want to test you, you know, and they sit
yeah,
there, they pick out cards, they arms are folded, so to say, go on in, well, come on, what are you going to get from that? And straight away, I'm wasting my time here. But you get some people who come in with an open, skeptical, but an open mind, and say,
yeah,
they pick the cards, and that's easier, obviously, because you get the story laid out in front of you, and you can see who's talking to you. But I mean, they say people should have an open mind when they do anything like this. I agree
yeah.
with. But yeah, sometimes a few years ago, probably about 2-3 years ago, I went along to see a couple of mediums, really nice couple, really were nice. And there was this one woman who was doing the readings, and the information she gets, she didn't read me, but she went to like certain people in the crowd. And I thought, and these people going, yes, yes, oh wow, yes, yes. And I thought, blimey, this girl's amazing. She really is good. And I found out 2 days later, and I said to the people organisers, she was really good. And they said, yeah, the problem is that she knows personally, she knows the people she read personally. She talks to
Mm.
them all the time. I thought, what? So I lost
That's
a lot of
cheating.
faith. Yeah, I thought, what? Oh my! And I was so disappointed. I thought, oh blimey, just once you want to see someone really do the whole thing. So I sort of lost a lot of faith in her. But the bloke who was with her, now he was also, but on the night I sat and thought he's good, but he's not as good as she is. But now, of
Yeah,
course, I go, he was amazing. Yeah, she was all right, but she needed to get out of her comfort zone a bit.
yeah.
So
It is.
yeah,
It's so fascinating. I have to say
mm,
that whenever I've been to them, and I think I've since
mm,
realized that maybe every time I've gone to something like that,
mm.
I'm always I'm always chosen, always. But I
Oh,
think
right.
maybe it's
Okay.
because I think I've always got spirits close to me, and I'm quite
Right.
tuned in. I
Mm.
wouldn't go as far as to say that I'm a medium, although a medium did
No.
once tell me that I would be in the future, but
Mm.
I'm not quite sure I believe that. Anyway, but I
Yes.
do know that I'm quite connected.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether it's that I kind of, because I
Do
went to
you?
see, sorry.
I was going to say, when you go in, do you normally sit at the back?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay. No, it's just there is a trick that not just mediums, but everybody is told when they want to get questions from the audience and that sort of thing. You always go to the back first,
Oh,
and
right.
then you bring it
Interesting.
in as you
Yeah.
go through the evening. I just wonder. Carry on.
Oh,
Sorry.
right, yeah. No,
You
I was
know.
just going to say, I went to see this really, really famous lady from America,
Right.
and she made me laugh. She said a lot of things. It started off very general,
Yeah.
as it does, but then it
Yeah.
got more and more specific. But the funny thing was, she said, you know, you've just got this huge trail of people following you around everywhere you go. And I could just imagine me with
Yeah.
this, my entourage of people everywhere I
Yeah.
go.
Now, why you're dragging your feet everywhere?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, excuse me. I've done a few of those myself, and the last one I did was with this lovely lady, Veronica, and I was really pleased with both of us because what we found, we've worked with each other a few times. And what we've actually found is we can feed off each other very well as well. And when we've both done an event like a haunted location, and we've had groups, I really enjoy working with her because I don't know, sometimes you just get a good feeling from the person you're working with, you
Yeah.
know. So done, but I did an event, for 2 or 3 months ago now, and I was really pleased with that one because I did it with this Veronica again, and she was one of those. Mark, that we've been asked to do a medium night. I said, "Oh yeah, okay. When?" So about quarter of an hour. What? But she's good like that. Again, it took me out of my comfort zone. Oh, okay, all right. But I was really pleased with that for her as well as myself because there was a
Yeah.
group of people I'd never met, didn't know any of them, which is actually more useful for a medium because that
Yeah.
way you don't let your ego take over what you're feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And there was. I won't go into too many details, obviously, because it was quite personal to them. But there was a couple of people there. There was one person who was obviously having some real issues, mental health wise, and I picked it out straight away. And I think she burst into tears. And there was another lady there who had some issues with a baby or something, and I picked up on that. And they both come up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you so much." But what I was really pleased about, especially with the girl who had mental health a problem, was everybody had told her family had told her, you need to get help, you need to get help. But I found out the next day that after I did that reading for her, that convinced her to say, I need to get help. And I was
Oh, good.
so pleased with that, you know. One, because wow, I did a good reading. Sorry, that's selfish. But two, because she did actually get some help. And I was so
Yeah.
chuffed about that. And things like that make it worthwhile. Things like that make you say, yeah, this is why I do it. I remember once somebody said to me, and I'll never forget this quote. I can't remember the girl's name now. So if she's listening, I apologize. And she said to me, you've got to remember there are two types of people that you're doing readings for: those who want a reading and those who need a reading. And I thought that's so true because sometimes I sat down, even with my own kids, all grown up now. My daughter has come in one day, bringing my granddaughter in for babysitting, and I suddenly looked at her and said, I need to do your reading. I've just got this feeling I need to do a reading for you." And she said, "Oh yeah, okay." So I did a reading for her, and I was really chuffed because she was beating herself up a lot, you know. But
Yeah.
she managed to. It was like I told somebody else had told her. Although I told her, being her dad, it was somebody else had told her. Somebody else had brought it up, and this was
Yeah.
something I wasn't aware of. So she actually decided, yeah, you're right. So took a bit of a breather from what she was doing at that time. So yeah, but anyway, sorry, I'm waffling again.
No, that's all right. No, it's really interesting. It's great. Um,
Yeah.
Now, so I'm going to take a sideways turn now and
Mhm.
go on to the. I was really interested by what you said about interdimensional beings and this friend of
Right.
yours taking pictures and Grace turning up. I'd like to know more about that.
Well, what's it called now? CE.
5.
That's the one. Oh, well done. I'm impressed.
Oh, I'm interested in it. I'm really
Yeah, yeah,
interested.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed. There's actually a book out, but I haven't bought it yet. But
Oh, yeah. I'm interviewing somebody who does CE5 in a week or
oh,
two as well.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, you'll have
I'll
to
sh
let me know when that's
yeah,
done.
I'll
I'd
share it
like to
with you.
listen to
Yeah.
that. Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I won't ruin the plot for you then.
No,
But
no, it's all right. I'm just really interested.
yeah, I've got a friend of mine, Dean. He's a spirit photography, and we went to Cannock Chase. I feel there is interdimensional beings there. And I feel there are things like what they call the chupacabra, that sort of heard of that.
Yeah.
And there's another one. Can't remember now. Oh, terrible. Oh, it's Peterborough Museum, the other one.
Oh yeah, we'll tie that in.
Yeah, you can edit that bit and stick it in. Yeah, and that's right. Me and Veronica again. We were trying to. We were in the middle of the woods. I think this was Cannock Chase. We were in the middle of the woods, and I was using my dowsing rods at the time. And I kept getting drawn to a certain area in the woods. And unfortunately, I follow my dowsers. I'd rely on them, I trust them. And they took us to this really awful place in Cannock Chase where it was wet and marshy. And then they stopped. And then Dean took a picture, and it was like a swirly thing, and I felt it was like a portal.
Oh.
And apparently this particular area of Cannock Chase is well known for the BEKs, Black Eyed Kids.
Oh yes,
But it's
yeah.
been
I've seen a
seen
video
around
about that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been seen around that area. And I felt that this is like a portal for another dimension. Um, when I think about this is my own opinion. When I think about portals and dimensions, I tend to think of them as dimensions of light, because we only see 0.005 or something like that of that light spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also not only do we see, but we feel and we hear within that light spectrum. And if you go 1 millimeter out from that, that's when you're starting to look at another dimension. And again and again, and it goes on and on. Various hundreds and thousands of dimensions. So all around us could be there could be to completely hundreds and thousands of different scenarios being played out all around us, but we are only aware of this one dimension. That makes sense?
Wow. Yeah. I wonder if
Yeah.
that accounts for things like time slips and things as
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I've had one time slip with something was very strange, and there was another one, but that's quite a long story. Anyway, it was said to me once that what you have to remember is everything that's all around us, what you touch, what you feel, see, everything. It's not actually there. It's all up in your head. Does that
Now
make
that's a
sense?
scary thought. The Matrix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was David Icke who actually said that the Matrix is spot on. It's exactly what it's like. I mean, there was an interesting story about a hypnotist, and this is in a book by David Icke, so people take it how they like.
Yeah,
Right?
I bought one of his books. I read 2 pages and my mind was so confused I had to put it away again.
I've got several of his books. I will admit I've read quite a lot of his books. They do blow your mind a bit. But anyway, what was one of the most interesting cases was he talked about this hypnotist, and he brought on stage with him a man and his daughter. And this hypnotist actually they took his daughter to one side of the stage, and this hypnotist just got the man and he said, "Right, Mr. Smith," call him Smith, says, "I'm going to hypnotize you now." And he said, "Your daughter doesn't exist. Your daughter," and he got this into his head and he snapped him out of it. He said, "Okay, yeah, so what, Anyway, what was interesting was they brought his daughter on. Not only did he not recognize her, but he couldn't even see her.
Wow.
But what was, and as evidence of this, they got this clock, if you like, this big cardboard clock with hands on it. And he went up to another member of the audience and said, "Just make it a time, anytime you like." So he made it a time, and they put the clock behind his daughter. So she stood in front of it, and he stood in front of the daughter, and they said to him, "Do you see the clock?" And he looked at his daughter's stomach and said, "Yeah." He said, "What time does it say?" 5 o'clock. And hey, presto, they convinced him that she just didn't exist.
Wow.
So much so that he couldn't even see her, but he could tell the time of the clock that was actually that she was stood in front of.
Wow, that's incredible.
But it's as Ike says, everything around us is actually up in our head. It's all in there, and the brain can be manipulated.
So what's really going on then? Or are we all just dreaming the same thing?
Oh, now you're now you're talking. Oh wow.
How do we interact and see the same things? And does this mean I never have to tidy up again?
Oh yeah, I thought, yeah, great. I'll pay the bills. I mean, it's a whole new thing. It really is. But yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing stuff. But
It
yeah.
is, isn't it? So tell me about the Greys and sort of things to do with
Oh,
connecting with
you.
UFOs and stuff.
Okay. Well, I always consider the greys. There are two different types of greys. There's what they call the short greys and the tall greys. Just to be original. And when I read, because I've spoken to people who have had who have been abducted by aliens, and a lot of them tend to say that they are taken on board or taken up or whatever by the little greys. Now, I always think of the small greys as the workhorses, the ones that seem to do most of the work, that's the ones that seem to do all the menial stuff, if you like, you know. And then you get the tall greys who seem to be like in charge, but in positions of like doctors or medicals, that sort of thing, because a lot of people get taken on board and they're spoken to telepathically by tall greys. Yeah. There's all sorts. There's also what the other aliens, the draconians. Now, another, I'll touch on David Icke again, but David Icke talks about the royal family being a family of lizards.
Oh, yes, I know. That was a bit much for me, I have to say.
Yeah, I'll be honest, you know, but however, having read and been, you know, I do see why he's saying it. I do see why, because what he's saying is beyond that light spectrum, that's what they are.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I have actually heard stories of people who claimed not to be into this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and have had experiences which has sort of lent them to then seek out what's
Yeah.
going on. And I
Yeah.
did hear this one particular. It's my favorite. My favorite podcast ever is an American podcast. It's called Monsters Among Us with
Oh
Derek Daly.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I love it so much. Just people's personal experiences. And there was
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
woman on there once, and she said she was just minding her own business at work.
Yeah.
And there was a woman sat across from her, and she said, and as she looked at this woman's face, she turned into like a
Yeah.
lizard
Yeah.
for 1 second and then turned back to herself again. And she
Yeah.
said, and she just sat there and basically thought she was dying or something. And
Mad
this
or something.
woman kind of clocked her and then sort of scurried out of the room. But
Really?
I was like, oh my God, really? She said, and I'd
Yeah.
never even considered anything like this in my entire life before. I
Mm.
don't believe in aliens, I don't believe in the
Mm.
paranormal, but since that's happened, I can't forget it. And it's
Mm.
really disturbing me. And it's like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, that is incredible. Have you ever seen a science fiction, well, drama series called Grimm?
No, but do
No.
you remember one from the 80s called V?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what they remind me of.
Well, I always felt, I mean, how can I put it? I sometimes think that a lot of science fiction writers, you notice a lot of these ones that do that sort of thing, they get cancelled very quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
they did the
Is
V
it
in,
life imitating art or art
yeah,
imitating life?
something like that. Yeah, exactly. Because they had the V in the 80s, which lasted a couple of years and they cancelled it. Then they had the remake, which was 5, 10 years ago.
All right.
I can't remember the actress's name now. They did a remake of it. It was actually very good, but again, it got cancelled after 2 seasons. You know, and I get a bit suspicious of that. I tend to think, well, why? There was a program in the 60s called The Invaders,
All right.
and that was all about one man's fight trying to convince the rest of the world that they are among us. And it's a really good series, but again, it got cancelled after 2 seasons. Roy Finnis was the actor, and he witnessed alien excuse me, aliens coming down onto our planet, imitating man, or women, or whatever. And the thing is, though, if you kill one, they just dissolve, they just disappear. Yeah, so they like turn into dust and just vanish. So he had no way of proving to anybody that he had seen these aliens and they are infiltrating us. And it was really frustrating, because the poor guy had really go out of his way, and then all of a sudden everything be
nothing there. Yeah. Do you know what that really reminds me of? I read a book. Have you heard of Bradshaw? No, not Bradshaw Ranch. Stardust Ranch in America.
No, I haven't. No, I've not heard of that one.
So Stardust Ranch. So there's three kind of weird sort of happening ranches around Utah and the kind of southwest of America. So there's Bradshaw Ranch, Stardust Ranch, and Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, I have. Keep going. Yes, I think I know which one you're talking. Yeah.
And the guy, I can't remember his name now. He was called John, and sadly he passed away a couple of years ago.
Not John Keel.
No. He was the owner of Stardust Ranch. And the book that I've got that he wrote talks about him. I mean, it seems so far-fetched, but it just tie in with that sort of thing. And he claimed that on a daily basis, he would have to have hand-to-hand fights with grey aliens. And he had this huge sword on his wall, and he had killed several of these aliens. But again, he said that once he killed them, they disappeared, so he never had any proof of it happening.
Interesting. Is this based on a true story?
It is, yeah. In fact, when we finished, I'll put it on the podcast notes, and I'll also send you. I'll take a picture of the book. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
I mean, I've read about Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, the stuff that happened to those people. They had holes, like a hole in the middle of the sky, or in front of them, which when they looked into it, they had a completely different world.
Yeah.
But what I found, I mean, amongst the many fascinating things about that case, one of the things that really fascinated me is the cattle that there was 6 or 12 bulls. I mean, we're talking big bulls. If you try and tie one down, you couldn't. It'd just kill you and roll all over you. But 12 of them, I think it was 12. They lost 12 bulls, but they found them later on, all in like a trailer, all in their little compartments.
All squashed in, yeah.
And they didn't move. It wasn't until somebody, I don't know, banged the gate or something that they suddenly went berserk. Of course, the farmers get out there pretty quick, otherwise you get trampled. It's things like that that really fascinate me. I mean,
do you ever watch the program? There's a TV program about it. I really like it.
Yeah, I've seen a couple, but I tend to, if I've missed a couple, I think, I'll catch up on repeats or something like that. But I mean, the other thing is, I won't go into too many details. Obviously, I don't know if you're a PG or a 15, but the other things that fascinate me is the cases of animal mutilation.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard about Snippy the horse?
I have heard some horse stories. I don't know if it's that particular one.
Snippy the horse, who was a big sort of show type horse, was also like a farm working horse. Was found. They lost him one day, sort of like 6 miles away from where he lived. No idea how he got there, but he was just a carcass, and all the bones were bleached absolutely white, completely dripping with blood. And he's one of those mysterious cases. The actual skeletal remains of the horse have been put back together and they're on display at a UFO museum somewhere in the States, like Texas. Well, that was quite an interesting case. But that sort of stuff sort of fascinates. Anything unusual out of the ordinary fascinates me, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm easily
pleased. Me too. Yeah, me too. And through doing this podcast, I've learned about so many different things. When I first started doing it, I've been doing it, I think, nearly 5 years now. And when I first started, I was just interested in ghosts. And my goodness, my world has expanded.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You've gone.
Yeah, no, I'm still here. Hang on, let me put the light on. That's better. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Mm.
just been fascinating. I've learned about so many different things.
Oh yeah. Well, I
It's
think
great.
as a human race, certainly in the West, we've got a lot braver now than we used to be. I mean, the Chinese and the Indians, and sorry, Indians and even the Apache Indian, they've been listening to this sort of stuff. They've been um, worshipping this sort of stuff for generations. It's just us in the West, because we've been brought up with as a tick box generation. We tend to well, most people tend to poo-poo it, but I think we've got a lot better than we used to be. Again, I'm talking David Icke again. When he first came out in the early 90s, with stuff that he was coming out with, he comes out with today, he was laughed. He was literally humiliated on Wogan. You know, he was totally, nobody would listen to it. But now he sells out all his tours whenever he
Yeah,
two, 10,000s of people. I admire him for that, because I admire him for standing by his principles and what he believed in. And now his books sell faster than they can print. You know,
yeah,
so I think as a nation we are getting better. I mean, when you're dealing with the general public, you can get quite a mixed bag. So sometimes if you get a group of people that really don't want to be there and you wonder why they spent their money, it can be really tough trying to get
yeah,
some sort of spirit connection. But if you get a group of people who absolutely love this sort of stuff, are really into it, then you'll have a really good session or a good night at a haunted location. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Sorry. Anyway, but
Oh,
yeah, I've
it's
done.
really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, you know, I mean, I've got my podcast. It's my podcasts are very straightforward. They're
Yeah, and
audio.
what's it called?
It's called Mark's Unexplained World.
Okay.
It's available on all the podcasts, Apple and Podbean and Spotify, Amazon. I've been doing it for about 2 years now, and I'm now finally getting some decent viewing figures. Now it's taken me a while because I won't spend the money. I'm too much of a too tight ass to do that. But, but when I first started it, I was just going to do things like same as yourself, ghosts and spirits and ufology. But then I found there were so many mysteries out there that just don't get talked about. So now I cover a much wider range. I'll even talk about serial killers, unsolved mysteries, crimes, disasters that have happened over the years. I touched on the psychology of stalkers, the psychology of serial killers. I'm not a psychologist. I just love reading about this sort of stuff, you
Yeah,
know. It comes out, I do one every Monday, Tuesday. Usually comes out on a Tuesday. They're
yeah,
about 30 to 45 minutes long each. And I absolutely love doing them. And I've got like the next I've got so many more that I've got coming up, and I'll just
yeah.
keep doing until somebody says, "Mark, please stop."
I'm sure they won't.
But no, I do enjoy them. I really, and I love the research. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize how good I was. Sorry, I'm blowing my own trumpet now. But sometimes you think, oh, I don't know, can I do this? Will I get away with it? And although I'm blowing my own trumpet, I hear them back. I think actually, I'm probably too hard on myself. That's not too bad.
Well,
Um,
exactly. And the thing is, you've got to blow your own trumpet, otherwise who's going to
oh
blow
yeah,
it for you?
yeah, exactly,
We've all got
exactly.
to blow our own trumpets.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, every now and then I get a little bit of like imposter syndrome. Should I be doing this? How dare I? And
Oh
then
yeah.
I soon get over it, and I think, oh, what the heck? I'll do it anyway. Nobody likes it. I just convince myself, well, nobody's listening anyway, so it don't matter.
Sorry, that's what you've got to think, haven't you? Otherwise you get too nervous, I think.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm just going to have a drink of water, sorry.
That's right. I could take a slurp
I
myself,
just got
actually.
a tickle in my
Oh,
throat.
yeah,
So, I am aware that I've kept you for quite a long time, but
it's
just
fine.
before
Absolutely.
we finish, I'm going to ask you, when you sent me your information, there were a couple of things that I just wanted to ask you about. So, there was a story that you had about levitation. What was that? There's
Levitation.
levitation, and then
Levitation.
missing time was another one.
The missing time, and that's quite a long story. That one. I'm trying to think of the levitation, and I've witnessed a few things on levitation. I could tell you one of the quick ones on levitation. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
attended. I actually attended a possession or somebody being repossessed, if you like, or unpossessed. Can't think of the right word now. And what
Oh,
it
an
was,
exorcism.
exorcism. Yes, that's the
Yeah.
word. Sorry.
All right.
I actually witnessed this. Who was it? I better not say names, but there was one guy who does this for a living, if you like, and they actually invited me along, and I went along to this. It was quite harrowing to watch. I won't lie. It wasn't the nicest thing I'd ever watched. Oh, I don't know how people could do that to their bodies. So I knew something was unusual.
Yeah.
But when there was a couple of people actually holding him down, and you had my friend like reading. I don't know what he was reading from. I don't know if it was the Bible or not. He just had this book and he was reading words anyway. And I stood there. I mean, they made me stay back, and I stood there and I actually watched this chair that he was sat in with these two guys trying to hold him down actually lift off the ground.
Wow.
And I I was absolutely gobsmacked, you know. Um, uh, and what the thing is, though, when it was all over, it was about, I don't know, 40 minutes, 50 minutes might have been. And when they'd finished, the guy sort of came out of it and he was like aching a bit, you know, obviously through the violent movements. And then he just, you know, he said goodbye, shook their hands, shook my hand and went. And I said, is that it? They said, oh, no, we have to do it about every couple of weeks.
Oh my goodness.
So I didn't ask too much because I didn't want to, I don't know, be rude, I suppose. That was one levitation. The other levitation that I did witness, this might be the one I was thinking about when I put that down. I was doing an event for this company. And I was asked if I would take a group of people to do some table tipping. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. So, you know, one thing I have learned is when you're trying to get members of the public to uh, uh, witness something paranormal, you've got to get the energy up. You know, you've got to get the laughter going, the fun, make it a bit more fun. But I was quite lucky this time because it was a group of witches, one particular group, about 7 of them, something like that. And I got them around the table and I said, okay, ladies, do you need me to tell you what to do? Because I think you know what. They said, no, we know what to do. We know what to do. Now, I've always seen a table rock backwards and forwards. I've seen it. I've seen two tables fighting each other. But what they did was they literally just all put their finger on the table, nothing underneath. And they lifted this table, must have been 4 or 5 feet in the air. And I thought, my God, you know, and you could literally roll your hand underneath it. Like, look, there's no ropes, you know, no ties or anything like that. That was probably one of the most incredible pieces of table tipping I'd ever seen. And the thing is, when I suddenly said, "My God, that's incredible," they what? And then they all lost the concentration. The table went crashing down on the floor again afterwards.
Oh.
So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They were fine about it. So that might have been the one I was thinking of when I put it down.
Yeah.
So those are the two I've seen. I'd say the other one, it's quite a long story, so I don't want to.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do that next time you come on
Yeah,
because you've
okay,
got to come on next time.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. This has been really fun, actually. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
It's been so fantastic to talk to you, and I
yeah,
really appreciate you coming on and telling us all about everything. And I do
no
feel
problem.
that we have got lots more to talk about, actually,
Yeah, yeah.
in the future.
I'm on a high now, so I'll probably go and bore the wife.
Oh, well, so I'm going to wind it down now and say thank you very much for coming on. Can you tell us all where to find you? Where can we find all about Mark Hughes and your podcast and everything?
Yeah. Mark the Medium. I've got a Facebook page for Mark the Medium. That's not as busy as the Mark's Unexplained World Facebook group, where I'm always posting stuff about dimensions, Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, anything that's out of the ordinary, space travel. That's where most of my posts go. That's probably the busiest one out of all of them.
Yeah.
Mark's Unexplained World, I always put my latest podcast on there. And there's also, if you go onto the events section of Mark's Unexplained World, you'll see what's coming up over the next couple of months. Also, I'm on Twitter, but I don't do a lot of tweeting. I'm also, if you if you can't get onto the the podcast websites, there's Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Boombox, I think it's also on Apple as well, Apple Podcasts. I'm also on YouTube as well. Mark's Unexplained World, simple as that. And there's about, how many is on there? There's over 100 different topics on there. I have been told, I've had some very nice positive responses back from my shows on there. Most people tend to binge them, tend to binge through them, and I really like that. Like I said, they're not, I don't like shows that go on for about 2 hours. I tend to find I've drifted after that, so I try and keep mine quite succinct and to the point. So yeah, that's pretty much where you'll find me.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, I shall be heading over there to have a look actually after this. So that'd be fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mark. And I will be in touch again to have you on for part 2 of Mark's Unexplained World.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you ever so much.
That's been great. Well, thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon and take care. Goodbye.
Bye.